got to ask of you to do other than answer a few questions and tell a few stories. Would you be, well, normally the way we do it with a guest, or why we plan to do it with a guest, is I'll do a little intro to say who you are. Just a little fun.
Well,
little...
I know who the hell I am.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What the hell is that all about?
I know. So for the benefit of the viewers, then we usually ask our guests if they would open the show for us. And basically all that is in the chat window there, we have it as welcome to the Deke Snipe Selly podcast with your hosts, Kylie Murren, Chad Newman, and Ryan Gates.
Okay, what's the name of the show? Because I can't see it.
Okay, Deke Snipe Selly.
Oh, Deke?
Yep.
Snipe Selly.
Sally.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
With your hosts, Kylie Murren, Chad Newman, and Ryan Gates.
Yep, I can see you clowns' names.
Oh yeah,
there.
our names are
Run
there.
Kylie
Anyway.
right away. You guys, I have no time.
You're making me blush. You're making me blush.
Well, you'll match your blouse, dear. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
I know, Chad, he might give us shit the entire podcast.
No, don't worry. You'll
Hope he does.
That's what we like.
I'll dish it out to you, clowns. Don't
I
worry
love
about that.
it. I
I'm
love
it.
Irish,
Joe.
and that's as close as Dennis to swearing from Newfoundland. So
it. Exactly.
We're not afraid
we
of it,
love
sir.
it.
All right, so for the benefit of the viewers, for anybody who's well, normally we've only got 3 cameras, so here we are, we got a 4th camera today. For anybody who's a Leafs fan, last 30-40 years, unless you were on the moon, you know our guest quite well. He's a father of 4 boys, I do know that. Die-hard Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, Green Bay Packers fan, from what I got.
Owner. I
Yes.
own the team. My sons and I have 4 shares each. We are the majority owners of the Green Bay Packers.
No way.
So clean up your act, Ryan, and get it right.
Get the facts straight. He's also 2018 winner of the Foster Hewitt Memorial Award for the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's been calling Leafs games for the past 39 years. We'd put him on DSC payroll, but we don't have any money. He's not your average Joe. Holy Mackinac, it's Joe Bowen.
Well, thank you very
Yay.
much. And it is a real pleasure to be here. And I have to introduce the show. Is that the deal?
Yes, you go
All right.
ahead.
Yeah.
This is the Deke Snipes and Selly show with 2 clowns named Chad and Ryan and the lovely Kylie. Right there.
There you go.
Well done. Well done.
I like it. Good job, sir.
Love it.
Well, we're going to dive right into it, Joe. We're hoping to do it in basically what we're looking at is 3 segments to our show tonight. We're going to talk about Joe Bowen, the man, Joe Bowen, the broadcaster, and of course,
Oh, the legend. There's the legend.
I was going to just, I was just
Okay.
going to interrupt you,
Thank
Ryan,
you.
and say the legend.
and
It's
of
just grouping
course-
it all into one anyway.
Or if you want to shorten the term, it's BS.
Like it. And of course, we're going to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, what we talk about every week. So I'm going to dive right into it, Joe. Obviously, I referenced it in the intro. Holy Mackinac, that's your call sign. It's what most people recognize whenever they hear the name Joe Bowen. Where did it come from? Like, what's the story?
Well, guys, it's really kind of a strange bit of a story because I grew up in Sudbury, Ontario, in a huge melting pot of ethnicity. My dad worked for International Nickel. He was a general surgeon up there, and I proudly say that he delivered 3,000 Sudburyans, made only 2 mistakes, and their names were Paul Rimstead and Eddie Shack. However, while my dad was a goalie and had played goal for Sudbury Wolves junior team and the Western Ontario Mustangs while going to medical school, I would sit on his lap as a young boy and watch the Toronto Maple Leafs on TV on Hockey Night in Canada. And whether it was with about 5 or 6 Labatt's or Molson Canadians in him when Johnny Bauer made a great save, and I was a young toddler on his lap and didn't want to have him swear, he would say, "Holy Mackinac, did you see that great save by Johnny?"
Love it.
I obviously did. But my dad passed away when I was just going into high school when I was 14. And I was not into the broadcasting thing. I still had dreams of replacing John Bauer in the Toronto net, which obviously didn't really turn out that well. But when I started doing broadcasting in Sudbury with the Sudbury Wolves for 7 or 8 years, and then I was out in Halifax with the Nova Scotia Voyageurs, and when I finally got the job in Toronto, was about 4 or 5 years into it, and we were doing a game in Chicago, and Bill Waters was doing color with me at the old Chicago Stadium, and Felix Potvin made a great save, just a 10-beller. And I don't know why, but at that point was the first time that in my recesses of my mind, my dad would have said, and so I did, holy Mackinac, what a great save by Felix. And I probably wouldn't have used it again, but I looked over and my broadcast partner was down on his knees laughing. If I got some sort of a response like that, maybe I could use it again. And so I started using it again. I didn't try to overdo it, or I gotta have one tonight or whatever. But we utilized it. We decided that my third oldest boy, Sean, had leukemia when he was a year old. And we decided to get very much involved in the leukemia research thing. So we sold T-shirts with Holy Mackinac on it. And so it's done some good. And I don't really sit down and say, I gotta get one in here tonight. I haven't used them. I mean, a couple of years ago, before we drafted Austin Matthews, I didn't use it the whole damn year because there was nothing.
Tank Nation.
But it has very gratifying. However, I've had 4 boys play hockey, and if one of them is a goalie, and if someone scores a goal, and then a leather-lung parent, the other end, starts yelling, "Holy Mackinac!" I like to go over and punch him right in the snout, but I haven't.
Well, I'm glad Dr. Bowen had good manners.
Yes, he at least taught me that.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
You're up, Kylie. What do you got?
Oh, okay. Well, if I had to ask you a question, then I guess I'll have to ask this one first. Which player on the current roster stands out to you the most and why, Joe? I can probably guess who, but maybe it was someone we might not be so obvious,
Well, the obvious ones are there.
Mm-hmm.
The Matthews and the Marners. Morgan Riley's been there for a long time. The one that impresses me right now is Justin Hall.
Oh my goodness.
And the
Yeah.
reason you say that is that here's a guy that celebrated his 29th birthday just the other night, just last night.
Yep.
Played in the East Coast Hockey League,
Mm-hmm.
bided his time, got to the American Hockey League, brought up to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Coach didn't like him, so he was a healthy scratch for 71 games.
71 games, yep.
And then coaching change, he gets a chance to play, and now all of a sudden, who's out against Connor McDavid all the time?
Right?
This young man that can really skate and does a pretty decent job, and got the Leafs, 3 out of 4 points with the Oilers and 4 out of 4 points with the Calgary Flames on this most recent trip.
Yeah.
I love those stories.
Yeah,
I really
me
do.
too.
The Austin Matthews, I mean, what a great story he is, obviously. How is Tim Stützle doing in Ottawa? Well, he didn't score 4 goals in his first damn game. So he obviously isn't doing as well as the other guy. But,
you got that right.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I love those stories of guys that have paid the dues, who have plugged it out, who have been told you're not good enough, you're not big enough, you're not tough enough, you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh yeah? Well, I'm still here, and I have made my movement. I've done things to improve myself, and now all of a sudden I'm getting the dividends paid. And I think Justin Hall is a great story, and he's a great kid. He really is.
He is.
You can man, and he's starting to get some of the notoriety now, and I sincerely hope, and I don't think it will go to his head, but they're all of a sudden, as only the Toronto media can do, piling it all on top of him, and then all of a sudden McDavid goes around him like a hoop around a barrel, and you go, oh, well, I don't know anymore, but I think he's playing really well, and he's sitting as funneled right in with Jake Muzzin as a really good shutdown pair, and they've done that.
Absolutely. And Coach Keefe knew what he had in Hall from all the time with the Marlies. And so he knew right where to fit him and like
Well,
grow him.
And that's important too, but he had to get to the Marlies, and
Yeah,
just
that's right.
getting there and getting seen, and then having someone have some confidence in you is a big thing. It really is. And it
Absolutely.
really does show you that some coaches have, you know, for some inexplicable reason, a dislike. I mean, Pat Quinn, who I love dearly. There was a defenseman that we traded to the Edmonton Oilers who became captain out there, and they didn't like him because his hands were too high on the stick.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
You know, it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
That's right.
You're looking at a Rembrandt, and I'm looking at a Picasso, and they're the same people.
That's right. I agree.
Dare I bring up Nikita Zaitsev? Wasn't it known that he wanted out of Toronto because of coaching situations, or maybe it was his rumor, but I mean he's excelling in Ottawa, so it all depends. So I'm glad that Justin Hull has finally got his confidence, and we can certainly see it on the ice. That's for sure.
There's a lot of players that get buried and then never make it because of the same kind of a situation. You know, the old eye of the beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and if you don't get someone liking you, you're not going to make it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
you know our history here on the island too. We're steeped in the lower leagues. I mean, we've had AHL hockey here, or had AHL hockey here for 20 plus years. Now we get the ECHL Growlers,
We had
of
the
course.
queue in between. Yeah.
And we had the queue in between, yep, with the Fog Devils. So we're a sucker for a success story as well. We just love seeing our guys who played locally go on and move on up. I mean, we had some great prospects from the Leafs playing with the Growlers when they won the Kelly Cup. Just well, I guess now technically last season, I guess, because there hasn't been a season since. But I mean, we got to see the up and comers that are now getting a look. They got to look in at training camp. We got to listen to your call of blue and white game, and there's some of the guys who played with the Growlers just a season ago at the Kelly Cup. We're now at the training camp and getting a proper look with the Leafs, and didn't look that far out of place, to be honest.
No, they don't. And one of the things, and one of the positions that really lends itself to that is goaltending. And I have a young son that's played a little bit of junior hockey, and we haven't had he hasn't been in the eye of the beholder enough to play a full season at that level.
Yeah.
He played with Dawson Mercer and in Drummondville last year a little bit, played with the Sudbury Wolves a little bit. He's currently playing with Rayside Canadians and will play with Laurentian University next year. But goaltenders historically, unless you are really above and beyond, take longer to develop. And so the James Reimers and people like that start in the East Coast League and play and then develop, and then all of a sudden you are able to make the move and come forward and get into the National Hockey League. They may not star, but they're certainly going to get an opportunity to play. But when only one guy gets to play each night at that position, you have to play somewhere. You can't get any better opening and closing the damn door at the end of the bench. So that's one of the positions that certainly the East Coast League really benefits. Yeah. And in the old days, when this league was a hell of a lot tougher, then a lot of the guys that were playing in the East Coast League were not skilled players until the whistle went and the gloves came off.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden they were pretty skilled. But the league has changed so much now that quote unquote position is really not applicable anymore.
Yeah, that's right. And it still has that stigma to the ECHL. It's hard to get fans to come because they still think it's a goon league. But I mean, they got to know when you get the NHL affiliate, it's another incubator league. You know, you're growing prospects at a deeper level.
Absolutely, Chad. I mean, it's and because the way the sport and the game is now adjudicated and run by the ownership of the league or the people that are running it, this aspect of the game, not necessarily that I like, but has changed.
Yes.
I've always said I love the fighting in hockey as long as I'm not in it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You and me both.
We've heard some great Joe Bowen calls over the years of fights. Is there one that sticks out in your mind that you say, wow, that was a tilt that I'll never forget?
Ryan, I started in 1982 after coming from Halifax after doing 3 years with the Voyageurs, and we were stuck right in the middle of the Harold Ballard ownership era. And there really, once you got here and understood the dynamics of the franchise, realized there was no chance. There really was no chance. They weren't going to spend the money. They weren't going to add coaches. They weren't going to do technology that the rest of the league was doing because the patriarch of the franchise would not have anything to do with it. So having gone through almost a decade of that, or over a decade of that, when Harold passed and all of a sudden ownership changed, and you realize that when they hired Cliff Fletcher to be the manager, when he hired Pat Burns to be the coach, that they were trying.
Yeah.
They may not win,
yeah,
because there's 30 other teams trying to do exactly the same thing, but it wasn't going to be for the lack of trying, and it wasn't going to be for the lack of spending money to do that. So my personal favorite call of all, and I hope my favorite call will be later in my tenure, is Nicky Borishevsky's goal in Detroit.
93,
and,
yeah.
I was really happy that they switched ends for the overtime, and so where I was situated in the Joe Louis Arena, I was closer to that net, and I could see and called it as I did that Nicky had touched the puck ever so slightly from Bob Rouse, who shot it from the blue line, and Bob Cole, a fine Newfoundlander, if there ever was one, was further down, and I don't think Coley knew initially that Nicky had touched the puck.
I've listened to both calls.
Yeah. Still made a great call, as
Yeah.
only he can, but it was a bit of a reflection after it that Nicky may have touched the puck. But I saw it and I called it that way, and I hoped I was right, and as it turned out, I was. But more so from that goal, guys, is that the franchise made a 180 turn.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just to fill the coffers of the Carlton Street cash box anymore. It was, we're going to try and win this damn thing. Now, they haven't done it. They've come close a couple of times, including that year. But at least that was, if nothing else, a new cornerstone. If not at Maple Leaf Gardens, it was a new cornerstone in the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Wow.
I'm absolutely dumbfounded by your recollection of the game.
His memory is
that
amazing.
was, I would
A couple of weeks later, I wanted to hang Kerry Fraser because he blew the call in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another story for another time, maybe.
That's a heartbreaker, that one.
We don't have a lot of rules on the DSC podcast, but we don't mention that game or the Boston or
any
comeback.
game 7.
2013 short.
Any game 7 in Boston where good. All right, fine.
Yeah, no game 7s, and
Still
Can
down.
I add this thing about, when we had so much obviously of pain of recent efforts, and the one thing I will never forget, and it's as strong as that Nicky Borishevsky thing was the game 7 in Boston when the Leafs had the 2-goal lead and it evaporated.
Yeah.
And they scored and it was going to overtime. And we were in the Boston Garden and they played nothing but sing-along type music during that intermission between the end of the third period and the start of overtime. And Jim Ralph was standing or sitting like literally next to me. And I could not hear him speak to me. It was that loud. I've never really experienced anything like that. And I've often wondered if things had been reversed and it was in Toronto, would our building have been that vocal and that red? Because literally when the teams came back onto the ice after that intermission, I said, my God, our chances here are not real good. Because the atmosphere in that building after the fact was something that I'll never forget. It was mind-boggling. Yep, absolutely great.
See, we've seen it for the Raptors, but I hope that from the Raptors, like that, the Raptors championship, we saw the crowd. So the crowd is there. Just bring it to the hockey rink too.
Yeah, and yet, Chad, we get criticized because of the cost of tickets at Maple Leaf Gardens and at Scotiabank Arena, that the lower part of the bowl is always
Yes.
a highfalutin, folks.
It's the
That
suits.
have
Corporate
nothing
seats.
more
The
than to
corporate
drink,
seats. Yeah.
have their champagne or their
Joe,
whatever.
I have a story time.
All right.
My first trip, I paid a lot of money for those seats. This rowdy newfie actually got kicked out.
She did. It's a fact.
Yeah. Me and two of my buddies got kicked out because we were too loud and cheering. And yeah, the suit guys in front of us
And I
didn't like
agree.
it.
And I mean, the franchise is great because they have that kind of capital and they have that money generating kind of thing. And yet maybe the real fans are the ones out watching the game on a big screen out in Leaf Square or whatever. And that's unfortunate. However, I will say this, that once the playoffs start, it is a completely different crowd.
Yeah.
It
I haven't
really
had the
is.
pleasure yet.
Well, I hope you get a chance, Chad, because
I'm totally going to do
it's
it.
different. It really is. And the corporate people are there for the 82 games. But once the playoffs start, the people that own the tickets, they're the ones that want to go, and they're probably the fans, and they make a bigger impact at that time.
Yeah,
The
I can
people
see
up in the nosebleeds where my kids sit, they make a lot of noise up there.
Yeah.
I've been up there before.
I've said since that trip, because I'm after going a couple times since then, but since that trip, I don't even waste my money on getting the gold zone or whatever it is.
And the
I'm like
platinums.
purples, nosebleeds.
Up in the balcony, man. Front
Yeah,
row
that's
balcony.
where we had we've seen two
Love it.
games that trip, and the first game was the lower bowl where we got kicked out because we were just obnoxious fans from Newfoundland with our sign and and our flag. And there was two guys in suits ahead of us just having a business meeting essentially during the hockey game, and they didn't like it.
Well, Kylie, next time when you come, I'll get you seats to sit with my sons, because they've been
Let's.
kicked out of more arenas on the road than anybody else, including Ottawa
Good.
and Detroit. So yeah,
That's who I
think
want to sit with.
Oh, you fit right in with them, perfect.
Good.
So speaking of that, talking about being in the arena and having energy, how do you find the no fans in COVID situations? How do you find you calling those games without that emotion in the rink? Do you find much of a difference,
Can
or
I
you just
swear on your show?
Go for
absolutely?
Yep.
It's horseshit.
it.
Yeah.
Figured as
Agreed.
much.
It's obviously very different. They are piping in sound and there's crowd noise, but it doesn't react to things that are going on. Even if they try, if they do, it's seconds later.
It's delayed. Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yes, absolutely, Kylie. And it's not the same, but
No.
it's on. And we're going to hopefully get through this season, declare a Stanley Cup winner. They did it last summer when it was an amazing piece of work by Mr. Bettman and his entire staff and all of the teams that were involved, that it got done without incident, and a Stanley Cup champion was declared. We are in such unprecedented times that it's incredible. So we'll take what we can. We are able to go to Scotiabank Arena to broadcast the home games, but on the road, we either go to Rogers facility here or TSN facility, depending on which carrier locally is carrying the games on radio, and have to do it off a monitor. And just a sidebar story, please get rid of those damn jerseys they used last night. I can't see the damn numbers.
Reverse retro, yeah.
Oh, stick retro somewhere else. I'm sure they look great in a bar or walking around in your house, but on TV, I'm sure they're not working. Not for me.
That was the biggest complaint I seen on Twitter, actually, was that people couldn't see the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, it was different. I gotta say, it was dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, since we're talking about the Leafs, let's keep it going. I want to talk about John Tavares because I'm obsessed with the man. I was long before he was a Leaf, and the day he signed, I shed a tear. I couldn't believe it. I think he's the player that they've always needed, even outside of the the hype all around the young kids that we've got. John Tavares is to me, he was a Maple Leaf before he was a Maple Leaf. He played the way I think that he grew up watching the Gilmores, and like I think that he was the player that was always meant to be there. And I've noticed a big turn in John Tavares this season in particular. I mean, he came as advertised. The man put up over 40 goals in his first season with the team. But I noticed this year in particular, and I haven't really put a finger on it just yet exactly what it is, but he's playing at such a high level of intensity. Something that I've chatted about with Chad actually in the past is like he's now a new father. Myself and Chad, we got young boys who play hockey. Yourself, you're a dad, 4 boys. Do you think that coming into his dad's strength, has had an impact on his play in the arena?
Well, as you people know, you two fathers, it doesn't change your life at all.
No, of course.
No,
a little less sleep.
Oh yeah, Dad. Sleep, that's something that you dream about. You know what? Maturity is a wonderful thing, and I agree. I mean, obviously, he grew up in the market, played with the Toronto Marlies. He had the crest on his jersey for most of his minor hockey career. A great shot recently with the passing of George Armstrong of the Chiefs signing his Marlborough jersey at a tournament or a minor hockey event. But you know what? If he didn't start it, he certainly has accentuated it that, you know what? I grew up in the market. That's my team. I understand that there are a lot of things that go with being a Toronto Maple Leaf, some extremely good, some a lot more difficult, media included and everything else. And just going to the supermarket and having 15 people come up and ask for an autograph, where I'm sure maybe on Long Island that wasn't the case, or in Manhattan. So he understands that. And by doing that, he's opened the door, I think, for other people that want to come here. And we've seen, TJ Brody, for instance, wanting to come back to the market or to the province that he grew up in and was a Leaf fan. He's a total professional. There's no, he's great with the media. He's very deadpan, kind of very serious young man. And the fact that he's now a dad, I think, has probably accentuated that. But he's a great professional, and he does what is best for the team. And I know when they went out to try and sign him, it was, come on over here, we'll let you play with Mitch Marner. And that was, that's a bit of an enticement. But if the coach decides that I can be better by doing something different, are you willing? And the captain is absolutely willing for whatever. And so they have a wealth of talent in the top 6 players. And John Tavares is one of the key components of that. And in the dressing room, they put the C on him for a reason. And he handles the press well. He handles the room well. He's gotten some assistance now with people like Joey Thornton and Jason Spezza, who have also been under those circumstances with leadership roles in their teams. So it's, I think it's really a great room, and he is tantamount to being the leader of it.
Excellent.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Dude, is there anybody currently on the Leafs or in the system that you find is underrated, not getting enough attention?
That's in this market, that's tough. Sometimes you don't want the attention.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Bad game, and all of a sudden, it's like Steve Simmons tweeted out yesterday. He said that the best thing about those jerseys not being able to see the number was that Barabanov was more invisible than normal. Nice shot, but I mean that's part and parcel of what kind of goes on here. I don't know if there's anyone that I would really say that is not, being recognized or anything else. I mean, there's guys that are young people like Dermott that are trying to make their way to be better. And at this point, the coach has sort of had them in and out of the lineup.
Yeah.
A lot of that is not because of you play badly, but we have to keep this little group that they call Be Ready squad as opposed to the taxi squad.
Yeah.
engaged and playing. And that's one of the aspects that I think is a sometimes tough swallow, because in other markets, if somebody got scratched for whatever reason, it would just be that. But
That's right.
here it becomes a story, because someone
Rumors.
wants to find out why that. How do you feel about this? Are you
Yeah.
hurt? Are you going to be okay?
So true.
Think you'll be back in tomorrow? I mean,
The microscopes are crazy.
Oh
Used to-
goodness.
when the press, when we were at normal situations, you'd see that we're on a 10-game winning streak, but so and so hasn't played in the last 7 games, and the whole goddamn media would go over to talk to him. Now what's going on over here? It's really good over here.
Yeah.
Out of here.
It's all about the drama.
Not an issue over here. This guy doesn't like the coach anymore. Well,
Right.
that's too bad.
Yeah,
That's so true, though.
Everyone goes looking for the Kessel interview when JVR scored 3 goals back.
That's right.
It's just
Yeah.
it's the way that
It's
the
absolutely
media
right.
has been, and it's sad. but
Everybody
true.
looking for an angle, Ryan. Everybody needs an angle, right?
Yeah.
But gets more
I'm gonna-
attention.
I'm going to have the
unfortunately.
big story tomorrow. So
It's what
Yeah.
gets more
that's
clicks.
a little frustrating. Sorry?
It's what gets more clicks, right?
Drama.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Pat.
It's gross.
Well, I'm going to run a question by you now, and I'm really curious to see what you think. How close is the current team to a Stanley Cup right now? I mean, it's the best team I've seen in my tenure as a fan.
Well, it's
close?
only 2 blocks north from Bank Arena. You go right-hand turn. Hockey Hall of Fame is right there. So right now, I'd say they're probably the closest, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Unless, of course,
proximity.
someone has it down in Tampa for the weekend.
How close are they to having their current team on the cup?
And does he ask stupid questions every week?
All the time.
Okay.
He doesn't ask questions.
All right. I'll try and answer then. Ryan, they're closer than 3/4 of the teams in the league.
Okay.
But they haven't proven it, obviously.
No.
Getting to the postseason that's the chore. That's what you try to do, because you can't win it if you don't get in it.
Yeah.
And when you see what has happened to other teams who have had really good teams and had decent runs or not, let's go back to the Tampa Bay Lightning 2 years ago.
Mhm.
First round
President's
exit.
Trophy, 4 games, done.
Yep.
So if that's Toronto, how is that handled? Media-wise, it's
The circus.
tantamount to fire everybody. We got to change
Yeah.
the whole thing. So
Hashtags and everything.
We don't need the President's Trophy first round exit to make it worse.
that's
Because it
right.
can't get
So
worse.
to say that, I think on paper and when you see the talent that they have, they're very close. But they got to prove it. They've got to have a run in the postseason that gets people revved up. If it goes the distance and they win it, terrific. But you
Yeah.
got to get past the first round. You got to make people believe. And as a young group that they have as the core group of this team, that core group has to learn how to do it. They have to understand what it takes to get into the postseason, which they have. Now they have to learn what it's like to win a round or two, maybe be bitterly disappointed, but understand, okay, how that goes. Now, having said that, just watching this team start this season, you notice a lot of things about how they're winning close games,
Mhm.
scoring ugly goals,
Mhm.
going to the net, going to traffic, that sort of things that they were certainly not doing and being criticized about in playoff action previously. So maybe those lessons are being learned. They're going to score lots of really pretty goals and everything else, but a lot of the real ugly goals that turn into victories are just from slugging it out in the traffic areas, and I think they're starting to learn that.
I mean, Boston showed us that many times.
Yeah.
Too many. Thank you.
I feel like the
Yep.
team has definitely taken some discipline after the last, the recent years of disappointment. But even just the comeback in last night's game, being down, like typically last year, I would have said, all right, it's over, turn it off. But I was like, I'll, stick it out. And I was really glad because they're a totally different, not a totally different team, obviously, but they even look different. I don't know what
Well,
it is. And I'm
they're
I'm
not a
really
different team,
excited
but
finally.
yeah, they're not a different team, Kylie, but they have a different mindset.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I'm looking
Yeah.
for. Yeah.
And
Fresh eyes, fresh out look. I love it.
and
Lots
the
of guts.
mental aspect of this sport is sometimes not given enough credit or enough focus. You
Mhm.
can have great talent and be tremendous skilled, but it is the mental toughness,
Yeah.
the grinding, the scoring the ugly goals, the making sure I go to traffic areas even though I know I'm going to get whacked, hacked, and slashed and get the job done. Those are the things that you have to learn as a player coming into this league. And a young player like Tim Stutzla is going to have to learn that. He
Mhm.
scored a wonderful goal for his first ever NHL
He
goal.
did.
He ain't ever
Amazing
going to
goal.
score another one like that. So that whole thing changes because
Yeah.
you have not the time, you have not the space, and you're up against men, sometimes years older than you and stronger and tougher than you
Mhm.
are coming into the league. And you have to learn what works and where I have to go to make that work.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
finally seeing Matthews going to the corners or, being in that area in front of the net and taking those
Finishing the
cross
check.
checks,
Yeah,
finishing
finish it.
checks. He had, I
Mhm.
forget the exact numbers, but we were talking about it last week. He has more hits in the first 5 or 6 games of the season than he had in any other season combined. You know what I mean? So finally, I feel like the team is starting to learn the little details that they need to learn, and it's finally a little bit exciting for us.
All we
Mhm.
have to
Maybe
do is look at you three people and tell me what you were like when you were 19.
exactly,
Right?
exactly.
And what did you do with your life
Different
when you
show.
were 19? Were you physically developed enough to be a strong, athletic kind of a person, or were
No.
you just along for the ride because A, you had some talent or were able to do things? So, Kylie, I
Mhm.
think
That's
your
right.
point's well made. And they learn as they go through this how much more they have to work on their frame and their bodies, and what that will allow them to do in a game now that maybe they weren't comfortable doing before, and it all
Mhm.
works out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
I was just curious, Joe, as to how far the Hockey Hall of Fame was from the stadium. I didn't need all that long-winded answers.
You have another stupid question now, Ryan, or are we going to move on to some people over here that know what they're
Uh,
talking about?
I'll throw the Chad. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Don't
Meanwhile,
put the
Ryan's
pressure
the
on me
pro
now.
here.
Deflect that over to me now. That's thanks, Ryan. I'm
Ryan,
gonna
you should
switch
get
it up
the.
to let's switch it up to Joe. We got the least done now.
Yeah, sure.
Let's hear about
Let's
Joe
talk
now.
about Joe a bit. Why not?
Let's talk about
So
Joe.
Joe the man, the legend. I'll get into that.
I won't even say the
because
myth because he's not even a myth. Hey,
I
the
appreciate it.
legend.
because Newfoundlanders love hearing how much people like Newfoundland. I know you've been here several times. Is there any memorable moment or a favorite thing you like to do, or a favorite meal you like to go have, or?
Chad, I've been to Newfoundland, I think about 6 or 7 times now. First time was with my parents who drove across Canada to the East Coast. My dad, as I mentioned, was a general surgeon, a doctor, and so our vacations were to get away from the telephone. And so
Mhm.
we drove on lots of vacations, and we took the ferry and went across. This would have been probably in the early 60s, late 50s. I remember going to Signal Hill. I remember driving around. When I moved to Halifax and was doing the Voyageur games, I went to Newfoundland on vacation and also for events, golf tournaments and whatnot. One of my favorites, though, was coming out to Newfoundland for the American Hockey League All-Star game. And I checked into my hotel, and the
Mhm.
game was like 2 days hence. And actually got screeched in. Yeah, on George Street, the next
Love
day.
it.
But as I
Use the
as
screecher.
I got into my room, my message light was flashing. And it was a message from a couple in St. John's. And I called back and, oh, Joe, God, we listen to you all the time. We love you. You just think you're just doing it. We're coming to the game. We'd love to see you. What are you doing tonight? And I said, well, I haven't really. Well, we're having lobster. Come on. We're picking you up in 20 minutes.
Sounds about right.
That sounds bang on. Yeah.
When I hung up, I went, wait a minute. Am I going to get taken for my last ride here? What the hell's going
That's
on?
the end of Joe Bowen.
Had a wonderful, wonderful time. Wonderful people. And I really, really loved living in the Maritimes. I loved Halifax. I loved the people. You were an Upper Canadian until you proved to those that you were among them, and and that you enjoyed it and wanted to stay. And I would never have left Halifax, I don't think, if I hadn't got my dream job of coming to Toronto and doing the Maple Leaf. But I love I've taken my family to Ireland. My 4 boys, we went over because Notre Dame was playing Navy at Aviva Stadium in Dublin. I had been to Ireland. I'm Irish extraction, and I promised them that I would take them there. I told them, you go to Newfoundland, it's Ireland without the long flight. So we are all going to get out there another time, and I'm going to put the onus on you 3 to show us a good time out there and take us golfing and have fun.
You can
I was just going to offer that. I was just going to offer that. You can stay in my house and everything, Joe.
There you go. That's exactly. And I tell people it's the greatest hidden treasure in Canada, and not enough people enjoy it. Go out and enjoy it. Now, I don't want to go in the middle of February when your snowbanks are 15 feet high. However,
followed by rain.
I lived in Sudbury and we had 15-foot high snowbanks too. So
yeah, you're used to it. Hey.
Yeah.
Then it rains and freezes and gets completely useless to all of us, and we gotta wait till sometime in mid-June.
Yeah, but the alcohol is still flowing, so everybody's fine.
Oh, we won't freeze.
No, we're fine.
we only worry about the tourists, so we're fine.
That's right. And there are no tourists there in February anyway. So
no.
We say drink this. If we say drink this, it doesn't mean get drunk. It means don't freeze.
That's right.
Be like us.
Too funny.
So I got a Newfie related question too. And when it comes to players from the island, we haven't had the pleasure of having one with the Leafs that played at a high level for any amount of time. I thought we were going to get a guy a couple of years back, but in any case, any guys from the island that have stood out to you over the years, or someone that you might have had an interaction with that you really caught your eye?
Well, we've got a young Newfie working for the Leafs, doing a lot of the stuff with the equipment guys. Dave Roper.
We know Dave.
Mount Pearl, I
boy.
believe it is.
Yeah.
Chad knows him.
Delightful young man, and we have a lot of fun with him. I will say this: I played golf with him last summer during the pandemic. Maybe the worst golfer I've ever played.
It's because
you haven't played with me yet, Joe.
We only got 2 months out of the year we can do it here. So.
I realize that, but I'm the worst golfer I've ever played with, and he was even worse than I am. But anyway,
I'll put some money on that one, Joe. Well, maybe we'll get him on the show too.
Yes, my son David, as I mentioned, plays goal and played in Drummondville a little bit last year, and he was absolutely enthralled with Dawson Mercer. And he when he came back, he said to me, "Dad, this kid is really, really good, and he is just a marvelous individual.
Yeah,
and he's gonna make his name at the National Hockey League level." One of my personal favorites, and I know like Michael Ryder and Danny Cleary and that, Colin Greening.
Oh yeah,
who played in the Marlies, played a little bit with the Leafs during the year that we were trying to go into the tank. Not that Colin had a great deal to do with that, but he came up here and went to Upper Canada College. He's just a terrific young man. I'm sure that he's going to have a lot of work as far as coaching or whatever, wherever he decides to go, because he's that intuitive as far as the game is concerned, and was a pretty damn good hockey player too.
Yeah.
So I would say if I had a real favorite, it would be Colin.
Nice, and he was an excellent Marley as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Nice.
Great. What do you got from Kylie? Shoot it your way.
Okay. I just recently got into collecting hockey cards for rookies. So knowing, obviously, you've met so many people throughout the league, not just Leafs, but I mean, the great one, we'll get to that, I guess. But do you have any prize memorabilia that like was given to you, or maybe even something that you bought that stands out to you?
I didn't collect cards, Kylie. When I was a kid, I collected Sheriff potato chips. Used to have the little coins that were you could get this really cheap plastic shield that you could put them in. And my mother threw all of them out at one point. So I don't really have cards or stuff like that collectible. But my idol and my hero and the guy that I wanted to be like and the guy that I wanted to replace was John Bower. And when I got out of university and I started doing the Sudbury Wolves games, we had a game in Oshawa, and the fellow that was doing color with me came up to me and said, "I've got an intermission guest for you for the first intermission." I said, "Yeah, who's that?" He said, "Johnny Bower." I said, "Yeah, right. Yeah, right." No, he's here. He's scouting. He said, and so Mr. Bower came up and he sat down and I introduced myself, and I must have sounded like a stuttering fool to tell him how honored I was and how big a hero he was of mine. And sometimes when you put someone on a pedestal as a hero of yours, and then you actually meet the person and you go, "Oh, he was really a good athlete, but I'm not really too sure what kind of an individual he is." You could not find a nicer man, a more accommodating man, a better goaltender. He is my idol, my hero. And when I came to Toronto after about 10 or 12 years after first meeting him, he remembered me. He said, "Wow. Anything I could do for you." We've lost George Armstrong just recently, and one of the great days that I've ever had in this business at any time was we were in Newmarket, just a little bit north of Toronto at the Leaf training camp, and the Chief and Johnny Bower, who were roommates throughout their career in Toronto, sat down and regaled me with stories. One could hardly wait to tell you a John Bower story, and the other could hardly wait to tell you a George Armstrong story, many of which we cannot repeat here. But I wish I had a tape recorder, because I laughed so hard about these two guys who roomed together and played practical jokes on each other, from George Armstrong taking Johnny's teeth out of the cup because he had lost so many, and got from a mortician another set of teeth and put them in his cup, and John couldn't get them to work in his mouth, and the whole team was in stitches. And another story, they had training camp in Peterborough, and Johnny had lived through the Depression, so John and American Hockey League wasn't paid a great deal of money, and Punch and Conn Smythe were pretty cheap in those days too. So when you could get a deal, you saved some bucks. So Johnny wanted to get his wife, her car repainted. And the guys said, "Hey, we're up in Peterborough. There's a guy up there, get your car painted. Cost you half as much as it's going to cost you in Toronto." John said, "Great." So he goes up, drops his car off on the Monday. They're going to stay in Peterborough for the week, training camp, weekend. They're going to be able to drive back to Toronto. He picked the car up on Friday, take it home. Well, Armstrong got the boys together and took a collection. They had this guy paint that car camouflage, pink, orange, purple, any color they could think of. And here is this wonderful, nice car now painted like the coat of many covers, and all of it. John goes in to pick it up. The guy says, I'll leave the keys under the mat. He's not even there to give him a hard time. And all of the players are out on the street yelling and screaming, there's John Bower, the hero of the Toronto Maple Leafs, as he drove home in this car.
In that car.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, stories like that were legendary. And I so many players and whatnot who are involved in going to events are there being paid or whatever it is. And it's okay, I'm here for the 15 minutes and then I'm gone.
Yeah.
John Bower sat until everyone who wanted an autograph or a picture was done. And if he was supposed to be there for an hour, many times he was there for 2.5.
Wow.
But that was him. And so he was an idol and a hero of mine, and always will be my favorite player and my favorite Leaf.
A legend.
Well, those memories you wouldn't be able to put a price on. So
No.
yeah,
And
I
you brought
love
up
that.
Now, having said that, I have you were asking about collectibles.
Memorabilia,
I
yeah.
have a bunch of pictures of me or Johnny that he has signed an autograph
Signed.
for me. We had a surprise birthday party for me when I was, I guess, 50. Holy Christ, that's almost. Anyway, and Johnny and his wife came to the birthday party at our pub here in Unionville.
Nice.
And I was just dumbfounded that they would come. And I
Awesome.
thought, they'll be here for 10 or 15 minutes and, maybe sign a couple of autographs and then they'll go. We had to get them a cab ride home. They were having more fun than anybody else in the bar.
God, love him.
And, that was just the Bauer family.
I love that.
Excellent.
That's
Hearing those
Yeah.
stories, like I could just sit here all night having you tell
Oh,
me
absolutely.
stories like that.
Well, when Joe comes down to stay with us, and
Well,
Well, yeah,
sit down.
we'll hear all about it. We'll take turns. He'll stay at my house one night, and you can have him
Yeah,
another night.
We'll get all the off the record stories then. So, Joe, speaking of your time as a broadcaster, I mean, we talked about you, the legend. What about your first night now, your first broadcast with the Leafs? 1982, I do believe, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Wow.
what was running through your mind that night? I mean, you're coming from the East Coast. You get the call to the show. Tell us about your first call.
Well, I better tell you how I got here
Absolutely.
because it's probably
That was my
better-
question.
It's a better story.
That's Kylie's question. Perfect.
So Kylie, here it is. I was in Halifax and a friend of mine, Alan Davis, who came east, a young lady that he was chasing, got a job down here. He chased her down here, ended up marrying her and is still married to the lovely woman. But he worked at CKFH, which was Foster Hewitt's old radio station, which is where the Leafs came from. It was owned by Telemedia at the time, Telemedia Broadcasting. And the president of Telemedia was a fellow by the name of Len Bramson. So Ron Hewitt, no relation to Foster or Bill, had been doing play-by-play and had decided to retire and go into radio sales full-time, which was a brilliant move because he made a hell of a lot more money than I ever did doing this stuff while you're broadcasting. But anyway, so I sent my tape in. I'd sent it to other NHL teams and had gotten polite responses. Sorry, we're not ready. And Alan said, you got to send it in. Send your stuff in. Send your stuff in. So I did in April. Didn't hear anything all summer. Then I read in the Globe and Mail that it looked like somebody from out west had the inner ropes on it. Looked like it was going to happen. So I bought a house in Halifax. 22 points on the dollar was the interest rate.
Wow.
And the bank phoned me on Wednesday and informed me that everything was good. We're ready to go to close on the house. Thursday morning, after doing the morning show at CKFH in Halifax, I got home. And about 10 minutes after I got home, the phone rang. And it's, hi, Joe, yes, this is Len Bramson, president of Telemedia Sports here in Toronto. We've been listening to your tape. We would like you to fly down this weekend to do the exhibition game with the Edmonton Oilers and the Leafs as an audition for the Leaf job.
Wow.
And I said, Alan, this is blankety blank. Don't do blankety blank. Tell me about all of this blankety blank BS that's going on. I just bought a blankety blank house out here, Alan. I don't need to listen to your blankety blank stuff. At this point, there was silence at the other end. And then he said, I'm not Alan Davis. I am Len Bramson, and I am offering you an opportunity to come down here. At this point, I would have slit my wrists if I'd had a knife. I had to apologize profusely.
Like you would.
Said to me, I'll tell you what, I'll phone you back in 10 minutes or 20 minutes with the flight arrangements. We want you to fly in September here to do this game. This was Thursday, so it was going to be Saturday. So I hung the phone up and I said, you dumb shite. You just ruined a chance at your dream job and there it is. So 10 minutes later, phone rings and it's Len. And he says, Joe, that's the most impressive and strange conversation I've ever had with anyone that I was about to offer a job. Listen to your tape again. We don't need the audition. We want you to come in Saturday. We'll sign the deal. So, Eilidh, you can tell a future boss to go shove it.
And you'll get the job.
I'll be trying to do that now.
I don't know if you want to try it all the time, but at least this one time it did. So my first game, Ryan, to answer your question, was in Chicago. I'd never been to the Chicago Stadium. I was scared to death, nervous as hell. I left about 3 hours before game time. The fellow who was doing color with me was going to show up later. I got in a cab with the biggest man I have ever seen in my life. And we started driving down West Madison Street in the worst area of Chicago. And I'm thinking, I'm going for my last ride, and I haven't even got to do a damn game. And then out of the horizon came the mausoleum of the Chicago Stadium, and I got there. So now I thought, this is great. And I had prepared what I wanted to say to start. I had it all written down, wanted to get into it kind of nicely and then move on into the game. And our engineer couldn't get us on the air back to Toronto. And so we're not on. The warm-up's done. We're supposed to do a pregame show. Can't do that. And literally just before they dropped the puck, he went, "You're on." And so, well, puck's dropped, and off we went. I never got to do what I had planned. And maybe it was probably a good thing because I would have probably sound like Elmer Fudd trying to get through it. But that's how we got on the air. And
the deep end.
Tied in my favorite arena of all time, the Chicago Stadium, and we got onto it, and off we went.
Wow.
Oh, amazing.
That's an awesome story.
And it's been the same ever since, or like, has it gotten? I don't know what I'm trying to. Has it gotten easier as the time went on, or do you still find it?
I think it obviously gets easier because you're more
you're used,
experienced with that.
Accustomed to it.
It doesn't get better.
No.
Many times, and at least I'm almost every night when I sit down and I'm in the booth and we're in an arena somewhere, and I just take 5 or 10 seconds to say, this is pretty damn neat. You have a job that lots of people would love to have, and don't take it for granted. And I try not to. It's been just a tremendous run. I worked 5,000 feet underground at International Nickel, putting me through school, hard rock mining. I didn't want to do that for a livelihood. This gig's pretty good, and I've at least been somewhat healthy and been able to do it as much as I can. And hopefully there's a few more years in here, and maybe we can end it with a nice Stanley Cup ring.
Lots and
I
lots.
hope so.
Lots of years. Lots of rings.
Yeah, lots of rings.
I'm hanging in there, and I'm on that team as well. So what about your influences, Joe? Like, I mean, as a young sportscaster coming up through, who was it that you looked to as an icon in the broadcasting industry?
Well, obviously, somebody like Danny Gallivan and Foster Hewitt and Bill Hewitt were doing the games when I was growing up. Lloyd Pettit, I used to be able to listen to in Sudbury. You probably don't know who Lloyd Pettit is.
Not a clue.
Lloyd Pettit did the Chicago Blackhawk game. And it wasn't he shoots, he scores. It was a shot, save, rebound, and a goal. Totally different than what Danny Gallivan was doing and everything else. I met Danny when I was in Halifax. He was at a sports celebrity dinner. I had the opportunity to sit and chat with him and interview him. And 3 years later, when I got the job in Toronto and I got to Montreal, Joe, it was so good to remember that you were, he remembered everything about us in Halifax. I mean, I can't remember where I parked the car. And just went on, and just an amazing individual, wonderful man. I only got to meet Foster Hewitt a couple of times before he passed fairly early in my tenure in Toronto. And I've ever met Bill Hewitt, who passed as well, but really was in failing health even before that and never came around the game at all. But lots of great people. Dan Kelly worked in Sudbury when I was a kid and was in St. Louis, obviously, when I started. Lots of great people. All of the guys, Pete Weber, Rick Jenneret, all of these guys that are a little bit older than in the tooth like me, have been around and paid their dues, and you appreciate listening to them. And as I've always told people that want to do the job that I have, or at least do broadcasting, don't be the next Rick Jenneret. Don't be the next Danny Gallagher. Be the first.
Be your own.
Brian Gates.
Be the only.
You know, do your own thing, your own personality, your own style, and work at it. You can steal some things from what they do, but don't try to emulate.
Yeah, inspire, don't mimic. That's right.
Yep.
Agree.
And
So speaking
I
of
think-
Sudbury,
Yeah.
oh sorry. You
No, go ahead,
you
Jed.
wanna-
I was just gonna say, you sticking, like, being yourself, and obviously the Holy Mackinac and everything, but that's, I think, why so many people love you. You know what I mean? You're not just the voice of the Leafs. It's just people get to know your personality and get to know, you know what I mean? That you know, and that's what I guess.
You know what, Kylie? One of the things, and I've often said this too, and you guys are a perfect example of this. Don't be afraid of the microphone.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid of it. You know, your own personality has to come out. And if you have a great personality and you do your preparation, you're going to be very successful at whatever you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's the one thing that I've often said, is that you really have to be you. And if you're a boring you're not made for this. Go push the button in the back room to get these guys on the air. You shouldn't be here.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. It takes a
I agree.
certain, it takes
For
a certain
yourself
type of
and-
personality.
Exactly.
go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Kylie. You always ask me, how do I get a job at the Leafs? I think we've learned from Joe. You got to call Dubas. You got to tell him to stuff it, and you got to be yourself.
Okay,
Yeah,
easy.
yeah.
And I got to move to Toronto. I got to buy a house first, and then I'll get the call, apparently.
Well,
Okay,
Kylie, if
I got to
you let
remember
me,
all that.
if you let me stay with you out in Newfoundland, I'll let you stay here. How's that?
Okay, deal.
I want to ask you about Sudbury, because I've never been there. The closest I ever got was to Dunchurch, I believe. But yeah, I noticed it got the same population of St. John's, so I know how to gauge how big it is, and not very. But it seems like it pumps out a lot of public figures, a lot of people that make it big, and not just in hockey. I mean, we
Alex
got Randy
Trebek.
Carroll, Alex Trebek,
Yeah.
exactly, and Rebecca
went
Johnson.
to my high school a couple of years
yeah.
before I did, but yeah.
You ever
Yeah,
meet
yeah,
Alex in
you know-
person, Joe?
Big pardon?
No,
No,
so-
I never had the pleasure of
Ah.
meeting Alex, Ryan. I wish I had, but no, I hadn't, and I was never smart enough to apply for the show. Oh, that would have been an embarrassing night.
Whoa.
I don't
Too
believe
funny.
we've ever had anyone this stupid from Sudbury on this show.
Go away.
Yeah, you know what? And back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, when outdoor ice was where hockey players came from, Northern Ontario was a melting pot for mostly Eastern European families who came over here, who had a knowledge or had worked in mines over there. And so they came to Sudbury and got into the hard rock nickel mining. they went to Timmins and Kirkland Lake and got into the gold mining, and developed families and histories, and just a great melting pot.
Yeah.
And we had some wonderful, wonderful athletes come out of Sudbury back then. And then when indoor ice became so much more applicable, then a lot of other areas kind of caught up and went on without it. But, George Armstrong, Tim Horton, Eddie Shack, my dad delivered it.
No, wait. No, that's right.
Davey Keon, all of these guys from up north and whatnot, did a great job and did that. And you're right. I mean, Sudbury's, when I was growing up was 70,000 people, which would have been what St. John's was then. And it's now probably 100 and change, which is probably what St. John's is now. It was, it was an invigorating climate, as St. John's is. The invigorating part is a shovel in your hand, out scraping and shoveling 3 times a day because the snow wouldn't stop.
Absolutely.
But that's what it was, and we enjoyed it. We enjoyed there was an outdoor rink at every public school and every high school, and every playground had an outdoor rink. Amazing. So you could play till the lights came on or until mom and dad hollered for you to come home. And it developed some pretty good hockey players without having the coach out there doing 75 different drills and parents screaming and yelling at you. We just went out and had fun. And, one of the George Armstrong, again, just passing, but he coached the Toronto Marlies to 2 Memorial Cups. And Bruce Boudreau and John Anderson and the Howe brothers and whatnot, they regale the stories about George's practices. He came out onto the ice with 1 puck. You guys are on that side. You guys are on this side. Let's go.
Wow.
And they didn't scrimmage. They played shinny, where everybody was trying to take it away from everybody else. And George would play with them. And he was so strong on the puck, so strong with his hands. And obviously he's a man and played in the NHL. But trying to get the puck away from George Armstrong was as much a skill set that these guys had. And then the last 20 minutes, okay, we'll do some drills.
Wow.
But that was George, you know what?
Yeah.
And the kids, they learned by playing the damn game. And they did it.
Yeah,
Maybe we
it's a
should get back
different.
to that.
Yeah, it's a different world nowadays, isn't it?
Can you imagine
Totally
Hockey
different.
Canada sending out that little leaflet? Here's how we should have practices. Put
Yeah.
1 puck, throw it on the ice and let them have fun. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
right.
just-
Every parent who's spending $300 for the ice would go right through the glass trying to get out.
I have
They
the app
drag-
for coaching my kids, and that's not in there.
That's not, no.
It never will be. But
Definitely
it's
not.
a lot of good stuff in there. But yeah, it's definitely not the fun scrimmage.
I'm so glad you got to the Sudbury stuff, because that's amazing.
Yeah,
Carly, what do you got
that's
for Joe? You got anything else to do?
I guess we can ask, over the course of your career, is there any Leafs player? I always keep going back to the Leafs. Gotta love it. But is there any player that like sticks out in your mind, like from a personality perspective? I know we touched on Justin Hull and everybody like that as like an underdog, but anybody, I guess, personality or even skill, they don't have to be the same person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess
Kylie, I've often said this about hockey players and the National Hockey League in particular, and I've had it restored by others in the media from other centers. Bob Birdie, who's a wonderful writer in Chicago. I can remember years ago, back in the 80s, he would come up to me and say, thank God the NFL's over and I don't cover basketball, and thank God I can start talking to the hockey players. And I thought about that and I said to myself, most, if not all, of the dressing rooms are controlled by the leaders in that room, and the majority of them are Canadians, middle-class Canadians, because our sport does cost money, but with great values, with great parents, with great parenting, and with great character. And so in the 39 years that I've done this, I could probably on 3 fingers tell you the people in the National Hockey League that I've met that I have no time for.
Wow.
And you can start going through the baseball or the football or the basketball, and I'm pretty sure that people that do my job probably can come up with 3 fingers and names pretty fast.
Yeah.
And I like to think it's because the Canadian nucleus runs the dressing rooms, and
Yep.
you follow what we do, or there's going to be an issue here. As far as the Leafs and players, I mean, Wendell Clark is one of my favorites. Dougie Gilmore, Matt Sundin,
Wendell.
just great people, and wonderful athletes. Thomas Carberlay, another guy that is still living here in Toronto. I remember Wendell coming from Kelvington, Saskatchewan, talk about your outdoor ice and a chip on his shoulder and how I'm going to make this team. And one of the true tough things of a journalist or somebody interviewing is to try and interview the first pick or the young rookie at training camp each year, because unlike now where they're coached a little bit about the media, Wendell was just Wendell. And it was, Joe, I'm and finally I said, Wendell, stop. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. So if you tell me, again, I'm going to hit you over the head with this microphone. He laughed, and we both laughed. But he was just that country kid. We had training camp last year when we were in Newfoundland and everything else. Bob McGill was there. I said, this isn't quite like the training camps back in the 80s. He said, no kidding. Wendell and I fought 6 times.
In training camp?
Training camp. Wendell arrived as a rookie, and he asked everybody, who's the toughest SOB on this team? Okay, if I'm going to make this team, I got to take a round out of him. And they did about 5 or 6 times. So
wow,
those things have changed. But that was, and Wendell has matured, obviously much better with the media now than when he was giving me his one-word answers. And is a tremendous spokesman. Daryl Sittler is another
one,
wonderful people. Boreas Salming, who unfortunately doesn't come over as often as we would like, another wonderful person. The Leaf alumni that is so involved in doing things around here.
Yes.
They're all very much involved. Back when Harold was alive, the alumni was nothing, meant nothing. Cliff Fletcher brought them all back, and it's now probably the biggest and strongest within the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I mean, seeing David Keon come back around and get back involved with the team in a public way was, I think that really spoke volumes as to where the team has come.
Absolutely, Ryan. And it was David's obsession with Harold Ballard that would not let him come back.
Oh, no,
and as much as the prodding and this thing is over, it's new, it's everything refreshing. It took a while for David to kind of come around, but that was a welcome addition, because he doesn't live here, he's down in Florida, but when he does come back, it's a very, very special day.
Still the greatest Leaf of all time, in my opinion.
He's my father's favorite. He always talks about Davey Keon.
I'm glad you brought up Wendell. I'm disappointed I never had a Wendell question, to be honest. He's my hockey hero.
Well, he hit all
Love
three.
the Wendell.
I was a Dougie guy. Kylie grew up a Sundin fan, and you were the Wendell Clark guy. So he hit all 3 right out of the gate. What about away from the team, Joe? Have you ever had any run-ins, or I shouldn't say run-ins, but any interactions with Wayne Gretzky or any of the greats of all time, Mario Lemieux, in your travels?
Yes, Wayne is a very special person. I know Mario and have said hello and whatnot, but anytime Wayne comes to the Scotiabank Arena or Air Canada Center when it was, he always walks into the broadcast booth right in the middle of the damn game when we're broadcasting, and Jimmy Ralph and I literally have to stop the damn game, say hello to Wayne, have him sit down and join us and do whatever. He's just a terrific individual. His dad is just an absolute Canadian treasure.
I
I'll
met
tell
him.
you this story. I got a jersey my oldest son, Liam, I got it probably back in the 80s. I got a Wayne Gretzky, and I asked Wayne to sign it for him, and he did. I gave it to my son for Christmas. So years later, just a couple of years ago, Liam is with a buddy of his, and they've gone to the Masters, and they're walking around on media day or on practice round day, and Dustin Johnson is playing, and so they're watching him, and my son Liam looks across the fairway, and there's Wayne, and Liam says, "God, well, this is, what the hell? What am I? No one seems to know who he is." So Liam gets across and he walks up to him. He said, "Mr. Gretzky, hi, how are you? I'm Liam Bowen. My dad Joe and whatnot. I just wanted to come over and say hello and thank you for the jersey that you gave me so many years ago." And so Liam thanks him, and he turns on his heels and he's about to leave, and Wayne goes, "Wait, come here." They walked for 4 holes.
Wow.
And Wayne wanted to know what was going on in Toronto. Why is that going on? Well, are they going to trade for this guy, or what's going on here? And Liam said it was unbelievable. He said, but unfortunately, with me walking with him, people started to recognize who he was. So now he's getting inundated with autographs and photographs and whatnot. But he didn't care. And it's he's a tremendous individual. A great ambassador, obviously, for our sport, and more so for our country. The way he is. It was funny. If I've got time, I'll tell you another story. Because I was busy so much in the wintertime, I love coaching kids, and I coached my boys, but because I was away so much, I couldn't coach hockey yet. But I love coaching baseball. And so I coached all of them in baseball. All of them played at a high level and really enjoyed the sport, and they still do. And I was at a golf event, and Wayne was the main celebrity at it. We were in a room just waiting to go out to the banquet. And it was just after his son had been drafted by the Chicago Cubs.
Okay.
And I started talking to him about, baseball and whatnot, and how much I enjoyed playing it and how much I enjoyed coaching it. And he said, "Joe," he said, "baseball is the best secondary sport for any hockey player to play." And I thought, really? So what about lacrosse or soccer or something with your cardiovascular and what? No, he said, no. He said, "I could have the worst shift of my season and somebody shoots the puck in off my ass. I come back to the bench, we're high-fiving everybody, how great I am and everything else." He said, "You stand at the plate, down a run, with the bases loaded and 2 out, and you watch strike 3 go right by you. Everybody in the place knows you failed."
Oh, wow.
And if you're really good, you'll only fail 7 out of 10 times. He said, so for every hotshot hockey player who thinks he can do no wrong, he plays baseball for a season, he's going to develop some humility. And it comes in big time doses if you're not an absolute marvelous star at hitting round ball with a round bat that's coming at you at 70 or 80 or 90 miles an hour. And he played baseball all through his career.
Wow.
Every summer. He
See, my son wants to play baseball.
Away, play another sport, and he's a big advocate of that, as I am. You got to get away from this stuff, put it in the basement, play another sport, whatever it is. Whatever you're doing is going to increase your ability to play the sport that you really love, but it gives you an outlet to get away from it and clear your mind a little bit.
We've heard Brian Burke say it.
Same thing.
Yeah, we've heard Brian Burke mention it 100 times. Multi-sport players. It was a lot made of Matthews's baseball career prior to becoming a hocky player.
Yeah, he said he almost chose baseball over hockey. Yeah. So he must have been pretty good at it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only the first time I saw the other day that Tom Brady was drafted by the Expos.
Yeah, I seen that too, actually.
I didn't remember
seen it.
I think you made the right choice.
Yeah.
They said he would have made an amazing catcher. I mean, nobody's nobody's stealing bases on that guy.
No.
Absolutely. That's great. Anything else for you, Carly? Anything else?
No, I think you asked all my questions. I think I did.
Oh, nice.
I mean, like I said, I could keep Joe here all night and ask him questions and hear his stories, but
Yeah, we don't want to keep the man all night. What about you, Chad?
no.
Oh no, I'm telling you, you crushed everything I wanted to ask.
I'm the
Amazing.
type, Joe, who literally like you like my tweet on Twitter and I'm like, oh my God, Joe just liked my tweet. And now I'm literally here talking to you. So it's just like,
Oh yeah, but now I'm going to start stalking. I'm going to follow you on Twitter. Watch out.
you can totally follow me on Twitter.
All right. I'm doing that right away, Kylie.
All right, you better.
She's a great follow.
I love Twitter.
The only other thing I had for you, Joe, in the way of questions that I was really curious about, when you got the call from the Hockey Hall of Fame, who called you?
Oh, that's a good question.
That was Chuck Caton,
Okay.
who was the broadcaster for the Carolina Hurricanes, and he is the president of our August Broadcasters Association.
Oh, wow.
And so it is him and a committee of broadcasters in the NHL that decide each year who would win the Foster Hewitt Award.
Mhm.
And so he asked me to sit down and inform me that I had done this and was going to be inducted with the Foster Hewitt Award, which was just a tremendous honor. Each night when we do a home game, I'm in the Foster Hewitt Memorial Gondola. Emblazoned behind me on the wall are about 10 photographs, large portrait photographs of Foster doing games. A fella who is a bit of a historian here, Paul Patsko, when I was getting close to my 3,000th game, said to me, Joe, I think you've done more games than Foster. And I thought, no, that can't be right. He did the games far more years than what I have done. And he said, no, he said, because they only did radio games and some of them were just like Hockey Night in Canada. They were only on once a week. So he really went back through all of the newspaper clippings of where they would have the listings for what was on radio that night because there was no TV. And he came up, he said, Joe, he wouldn't have done more than 18 or 1900 games.
Wow.
I said, you know what? I'm more proud of that possibly than winning his award, that I've done more games than what the award is named after. And to win the award and to be the fella that is sitting in his chair is very, very special.
That's
For
amazing.
sure.
That's amazing. I know I did want to ask you though, Joe, really quick. Have you been catching any of the NWHL games, like the Toronto 6 games?
I really haven't, Kylie, at this point. We've been busy doing what we're doing. I really hope that it goes, but the bottom line for that is people have to go to watch it.
Yeah.
If it's going to be successful. It's like the Ontario Hockey League here because the government hasn't bailed them out like the Quebec Junior League has, so that they're playing. Because if they don't have fans in the stands, they just can't survive.
No.
So that's something that we'll have to wait when this pandemic is over. And I sincerely hope that with the impact that all of this is getting them as far as coverage is concerned, will show up at the ticket window.
I hope so.
That's what's going to happen.
I hope it's not just people retweeting and sharing for the sake of sharing. Like, I hope they'll actually commit.
Talk is cheap.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Talk is cheap.
Get off your wall. And take your kids. Yeah, exactly. Because women's hockey is tremendous. It really is. It's and unfortunately, we only get excited about it every 4 years.
During the Olympics.
And then
I know
some of the greatest moments this country's had have been the women's game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. I played hockey as a kid and as a little girl, and I just knew that once I got out of high school, that was it. I knew there was no future, so to speak. So it's just, I hope that little girls now, like Chad got a little girl who plays hockey. Like, I just hope that she doesn't have, like, she has more to dream of, you know, that she know
Right.
that there's
Yep.
no end point for her career.
You
Like
need-
I
need stars to shoot at.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly. And so I love to see that, you know, the coverage that this league is getting. And now that we have the Toronto 6 team and everything,
Mhm.
I'm loving it. Hopefully it just, like you said, talk is cheap.
Well,
I said the dream goes to the national level.
it looks like they've gotten enough recognition that there is corporate sponsorship.
Yes,
Hopefully the National
finally.
Hockey League will be a part of it. And if you make it a big deal, it is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And
Finally.
hopefully that'll be the case.
I mean, it's 2021. So much has changed in this last couple of years. It's about time that we can watch women's hockey on
Yeah.
TV, or I mean, it's on Twitch right now, but that's closer than what closer than what it was 10 years ago. So it was a
Absolutely.
year
My
ago,
daughter-
honestly.
My daughter just turned 8 and she's insistent to play with the boys, and she knows where her level is at the moment. And
Yep.
on the way
Yep.
back from her game yesterday, they had just lost, but she won the hardest worker. And
God love her.
it's a big deal.
Sure.
And she asked me, how come there's no girls in the NHL? And she had already known about Minorium and stuff like that. And I said, well, never say never. You never know. You just
No.
never know. Just, I'm not going to say, you know, physicalities. I'm just going to say never. Just
Mhm.
as long as someone keeps trying, there's always a chance.
I think we're
Absolutely.
closer now to a proper women's hockey league where they get paid than we've ever been. The sponsorship and everything that needs to go in accordance with that to push it over the top, it remains to be seen. But I think we're getting close, and I really hope we get there.
They just had over 18,000 people. It was like almost 18.5, I think, watching the game. I think it was yesterday's game, or Friday's game. I'm not entirely sure, but one of the games I tuned into had over 18,000 people watching it.
Good.
So
That's over a stadium full.
it was good to see. Yeah, and actually that was the comparison that somebody did. There was only 4 NHL teams who beat that 18,000 in average attendance in last year, which was Leafs, Montreal, you know, those teams.
Yep.
So it's good to see. It really is.
Good step.
Gotta back it up.
Step
Right,
in
we
the
got-
right direction.
I think we got one last thing for Joe, which we wanted to do, and that was we got a couple of
Calls.
calls. Yeah, we pulled out basically 4 of our favorite calls over the years. We're gonna throw them up there. We want to get your reaction to them, your memory of the actual call, and hopefully you'll enjoy this as much as we will. This is more for our pleasure, I think, than yours. But it is up there now. Okay, I'm gonna go with the first one here, guys. This is one of my favorites of all time.
I can't hear it.
That guy's really good. You can't hear him.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Did it not come up?
Yes.
Didn't play?
No, it's not playing.
Technical difficulties beyond our control.
Yeah,
It
that's
is.
it.
Not
It's going
adjusted
live, right?
Yeah, not the
Working
same.
We tested it all. It worked.
Oh,
It worked an hour ago.
Oh, my bad, guys. I screwed up.
Oh,
It's
you're mad.
Ryan's fault.
I got it now. Sorry.
You're
It
mad.
won't happen. It won't happen next time you're on, Joe.
No, of
Yes,
course
we
not.
promise. We promise.
Yeah. No, I got it now. Just give me 2
Once a week
seconds
is all we
here.
ask.
I never had the little button check.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
Yeah, you never know. We do this because we love it, but it would be nice if we could monetize someday.
Yeah,
It's a
one of
t-shirt,
these
uncle.
days.
MIDI player. Here we go. All right.
All right.
Now I got it.
Share screen.
Yep, we're coming. Hang in there. Hang in there. All right. And one more click and we should be good.
There we go.
All right. Now we should be able to do this. I hope.
All right, Joe, cross your fingers.
Nope.
No.
Why did you go so low?
Which one of you guys went to the technical school part of this show?
This is Ryan's job.
Yeah, this is my epic failure apparently.
Have you been fired lately?
Not
Okay,
yet.
how about I got an idea.
Hang on now. I
You
got it.
Okay. Third time's charm. What do you got?
There
There,
are
it
times
is.
if it doesn't
Yeah.
work this time.
Another right hand by Brown. LeFave gets an uppercut. Down goes Brown. Down goes Brown. And LeFave leaves keeps him there. TKO.
What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, that was
Brown goes
Robbie
Brown.
Brown, and no one liked him, so it was it was quite a night. Sylvain Lefebvre rocked him pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that became such a famous call now.
Down goes Brown.
The whole character now.
Now we got somebody on Twitter that's his nom de plume is Down Goes Brown.
Yeah,
Writing books and everything.
I've
Get a
seen that.
dollar or two out of that, you'd think, wouldn't you?
You should.
I feel a lawsuit. Yeah.
We're working on it, Joe.
Here's probably, I'm not gonna say it's my second favorite call of all time. I think we can all agree on this.
Into the corner. Crosby in front. Oh, what a save! Holy mackerel! Holy McElhenney! What a save he makes on Crosby! Leafs get it again. Matthews to center. Into the net, he scores! Holy mackerel! They're going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
That was a
remember
tough
that game.
situation for Curtis McElhenney to come in because Frederick Anderson got hurt. And yeah, he got them in the playoffs with just a tremendous save and the empty netter.
Yeah,
that
I
I remember that
Talk
game.
about what happened after that.
No, we don't.
shall not be talked about. But I can remember sitting in my living room
We don't
watching
have those clips.
watching that play come together, and I seen Crosby in the corner, and I seen the puck come across, and I literally went, "No!" and
Yeah.
and then the save of the year for the Leafs was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my
Yeah.
favorite. One of my favorite. It actually brought me.
Curtis McElhinney.
Your call actually brought me to my feet. It was just incredible. Here's one from when I was a kid, and I just absolutely. I still watch the video clip. I'd say weekly.
As in comes Hextall to grab Potvin. Now Potvin and Hextall are fighting. Off comes Potvin's helmet. Hextall throwing punches at Potvin. Felix throwing an uppercut lands on Hextall right on the butt. They're railing away at one another. Hextall sweaters up. That's a fine.
That's a fine. Is my favorite call.
That-
You know, I often said that I love a good fight as long as I'm not in it.
Yeah.
And when I was in Halifax, Trevor Burbick, who was the Canadian heavyweight champion, had a lot of bouts in and around the Maritimes. And I broadcast those along with Ralph Hollett, who was the Canadian middleweight champion from Nova Scotia as well. So I've done a lot of boxing. I did Trevor Burbick and Larry Holmes in Vegas. And I did Trevor Burbick and Muhammad Ali's last fight, which was in Nassau in the Bahamas.
Wow.
And one of the strangest fights I did was Ralph Hollett, who was a middleweight, but was really a light heavyweight body. But he would have to lose weight in order to get down to the middleweight. He was fighting Fernand Marcotte in Montreal, and it was about 109 degrees outside and about 130 at ringside. And Ralph came in the morning and he was 10 pounds overweight. And he put the plastic bag on, he went in the sauna, and he sat there all afternoon and made weight. But I mean, he was like a noodle. He got into the ring. And so for the first 5 rounds, he never threw a punch. And Marcotte just wailed the tar out of him. And he came out to start the 6th round, and he came across the ring, and he wound up and he hit Marcotte with the only punch he threw in the entire fight, right on the butt. And down he went. And I jumped into the ring and I said, "Ralphie, what would have happened if he got up?" Never fought light or middleweight again, and his career
Done.
came to an end shortly after that.
Oh, that's excellent. Of course.
One of the greatest games when it comes to a line brawl. I mean, that when the goalies got together at the end of that brawl, it really things really got hot and really heated.
Yeah.
None of us knew that Felix could fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Hextall had been in all kinds of these. And all of a sudden, you see him coming down, and there's poor little Felix standing there going, "Oh my God, he's going to get massacred," because there's no one to come to his aid because everybody else was paired off. And then we found out, Jesus, Felix could fight. So did Hextall.
Listen,
Yeah.
he spent time on George Street too.
Oh,
Yeah.
A lot of
No,
talk.
St.
I
John
don't
Maple
believe
Leaf.
anything like that ever happens there. It's a quiet neighborhood, and it's a lovely spot to visit.
I couldn't agree more.
Hockey players do not like it at all.
One more, and I think the three of us agree that this is our favorite calls of all time.
Center in front. They score! They score! Austin Matthews! Welcome to the NHL! Austin Matthews on the left wing, got it in over the line and stolen again. He's going to the net shot. He scores! Austin Matthews banks it off the post and in. Never mind one. Let's have two. Here's Riley going wide, sends it in front of the net shot. He scores! Do you believe this? Holy Mackinac, he's got three! Here's Matthews with Nylander, 2-on-1, back to Matthews, he scores! Austin Matthews, 4 goals! Do you believe this? Holy Mackinac, the kid's on fire!
That's
I wish you could see the cold shivers on my arms.
Oh, Kylie, the addition to this story, Lou Lamoriello had arrived. One of his pensions with the Islanders was that the media was no longer allowed on the team's charter. So Jimmy Ralph and I, who had traveled with the team for decades, were no longer allowed to travel with them, so we had to fly commercial. So that meant after that game, we had to stay over and get back to Toronto the next day. We went back to our hotel where the team had stayed. We stayed in the same hotel just outside of Ottawa. Excuse me. And Mr. and Mrs. Matthews were in the bar.
Wow.
I had not met them. And Paul Hendrick, who was with us, he'd been at the draft and whatnot. So I introduced myself and I said, Brian, I'm going to get something here. I'm going to go up to the room. I'm going to get them to send me those clips. And I gave them to them. I emailed them to them right in the bar. And we played them then. And I watched the two of them cry.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was a very, very, very special time. And we've been very close friends ever since.
You can see it on Emma's face. Yeah.
Yeah, Kylie, it was. And
yeah, it was just amazing.
The father-son trips and the mother-son trips that they've had. I'm old enough that I'm the one hanging around the parents rather than the players. And they got a lot better stories, and they can stay out after curfew, which is even better.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
I remember watching that game. My wife, she was actually pregnant at the time, so she was lying back in bed, and I'm watching hockey games. So obviously it's late here in Newfoundland.
How did that happen?
It wasn't my fault.
The normal way.
She went and got herself pregnant, Joe. Right? I mean, you've been there.
That sounds like something that might happen in Newfoundland. All right.
Yeah, but I remember Matthews scored the third goal because I was running back and forth. Obviously, it's the opening night. I was so pumped. We were all fired up with these rookies. All these rookies were going to play. And I'm running back and forth between the TV room and the bedroom. And I'm like, he scored. He scored in his first game. He scored again. He's got a hat trick. And then I remember when I was leaving the room after the hat trick, I said, if he scores again, Joe Bowen's either going to have a heart attack or shit his pants. But
I did both, but I've recovered from both problems. So
hey, nobody's judging you, Joe.
You think about it, like Tim Stützle is a tremendous young man. Lafreniere, great talent, first overall pick, just got his first point the other day on an overtime goal. I mean,
not in his first game.
For this kid to do that was, just
special.
Absolutely astounding.
Absolutely. That goalie that he left, Carlson there, just kind of. Yeah, when he took it from Carlson, I was like, oh my God, are you serious? Like Norris Trophy winner.
No, I mean,
made him look like
the reactions. To me, hockey is all about reactions to players' reactions, to fans' reactions, to broadcasters' reactions, and that game. You'll never see reactions like it again. Your calls, his parents' reaction in the stands, Matthews' reaction when he scored the fourth goal was almost like someone.
And the fact that half the rink was full of Leaf fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Ottawa.
Yeah.
And the reaction into the loss. But anyway, we put all that out of our mind because it's a great moment in not just Leafs history, but hockey history. So
I'm willing to bet a lot of Leaf fans don't even remember that we lost that game.
It was more important than 2 points. There was.
Who cares? At that
Yeah.
point.
Not when we have this new rookie who just scored 4 goals. Everybody was planning the parade after that game. I know I
Another
was.
turn in the franchise.
Yeah.
That's
I know
definitely
I
another
was.
turn in the
That's for
franchise,
sure.
like you talked about earlier.
That led to the call earlier that we're going to the playoffs, first time in quite some time. So no, it was just one of those moments I'll never forget for the rest of my life. It's just engraved.
No.
So you guys got nothing else for Joe? I guess we wrapped up those few clips I wanted to hit.
Yep, that was it.
Yeah, like I said, he crushed all my questions.
Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yes, thank
same
you
to
so
you,
much,
Joe.
Guide
Joe.
everybody
Absolute
out on
pleasure.
the rock for me.
Will
And
do.
please, if you run into Bob Cole, say hi for me too, please.
Will do.
Very special.
Will
100%.
do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Joe.
So-
I'll go. I'll be awaiting your follow request.
What? Got the phone right here. Here it comes.
She's holding you too, Joe.
No, in closing, Joe, I get a little story, a little story for you. We had a radio host here on the island. He hosted our classic rock station here in St. John's for years, and he was so endeared to the fans. He passed, unfortunately, a few years back. Oddly enough, it was a heart condition that he ended up having as a young man. He was only in his I guess late 40s, early 50s. So it was a shock to everybody because he was known as the guy who had the biggest heart in the world. At his eulogy, his co-host Mike Campbell, who's still hosting the morning show here in St. John's, he said that in the radio business, he said it's hard enough to get listeners, but Tommy not only had listeners, he had fans. And I always think of you when I think of that when I hear that quote, because when I hit social media or Twitter, you see all these things like the hashtag bring back Bowen to the TV, or you see these online petitions to bring Joe back because you're just so endeared to the fans and beloved by everyone. But more importantly, you didn't need to do this for us today. You're a big deal, and we certainly are just getting started in this podcasting. So we truly appreciate you being able to come out and share this little bit of time with us. So on behalf of the other two clowns, I'll say thank you very much for coming out and making this a night that I don't think any of us are going to forget.
Never. My cheeks are hurting from smiling.
The only clown in this show was the guy that couldn't get the audio up. You two are fine.
Man, oh man. And by the way, you're never welcomed back again. Good, he said.
That's okay, Joe. We'll have one.
Back.
We'll have one. We'll have the next Zoom meeting, and we'll just forget to invite Ryan.
All right. Well, the next time I'm in Newfoundland, we're going to George Street. You can take me to all of the good Irish pubs.
Well, you can hold us to it, Joe. We're good for it.
Yeah, we will.
Not only that, we're going to hold you. We're going to hold you to that as well.
All right.
Yep. Thanks, Joe. Bye.
Thanks so much, Joe.
All the best.
All the best.
Bye.
Thank you.
Go Leafs.
Peace out, guys.
Go Leafs, go.
Go Leafs, go.
All right. So big thanks to Joe Bowen. That was probably a once in a lifetime opportunity for the three of us.
Dream come true.
Absolutely.
Unless we get him home from, well, I say home, but our home. Unless we can get this COVID thing straightened out, we're getting Joe down at George Street. We're having a bite.
Yes. We're taking him up on that offer.
And you know what? I'll
100%.
take him golfing and show him what a bad golfer is. He has no idea. He thinks he's best.
Yeah, I tell you. And for any of you other guys out there who are not too cool not to be on our podcast, let us know. We're game for just about anyone who wants to talk hockey. Average Joes or not so average Joes. You let us know, and we might want to get you on. So by all means, drop us a message. If you like what you've seen, guys, hit the subscribe button there on your YouTube channel. Give us a share, give us a like, and maybe even drop a comment in the comment box down below. But for myself, Kylie, Chad, I guess peace out. Go Leafs, go.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.